Your neighbor said something dangerous about you to authorities. God says this message is reaching you at the exact second you were meant to receive it. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is random. Nothing is a coincidence for someone chosen the way you are. God says He has watched the way your heart has survived storms that would have destroyed most people long ago. You have stood alone when nobody understood what you were really going through. But heaven understood every tear, every prayer said in silence, every moment you felt alone even in a crowded room. And now heaven has chosen this moment to speak because something important moved in the spiritual realm. Something connected to you. Something connected to your destiny. And God needs you to hear every word without skipping, without doubting, without fear. Because the truth is simple. You are protected even when you don't realize it. You are watched over even when you sleep. And God says what is happening around you right now has not come to destroy you. It has come to reveal you. God says you must listen carefully because Archangel Michael has stepped forward with an urgency that heaven does not ignore lightly. His wings are already spread around you and he has placed his sword of truth directly between you and the intention of those who thought they could interfere with your path. God says someone near you, someone you would never expect. Someone who watches you quietly. Someone who pretends they don't think about you. Said something about you to authorities, something twisted. Something exaggerated. Something that came from jealousy, insecurity, or fear. God says they thought they could damage your image, your peace, your stability. They thought they could create confusion around you. They thought they could shift attention onto you so eyes would be diverted from their own hidden behavior. But God says they didn't realize who you are. They didn't realize the divine hand that rests upon your life. They didn't realize that heaven takes offense when anyone tries to stain the name of someone chosen. They didn't realize the spiritual protection you walk with. God says yes, they said something dangerous. Yes, someone tried to cause trouble. Yes, their words reached people who have an official status. But God says you must not fear. They may have watched you, but God says He watched over them watching you. Nothing was hidden from heaven. Nothing they attempted succeeded. Nothing they planned unfolded the way they hoped. God says their intention carried a darkness that heaven blocked instantly. Archangel Michael prevented something from escalating. He prevented a misunderstanding from turning into harm. He stood in front of you, shielding you from what you never even saw. God says this message is not to worry you. It is to show you how protected you truly are. It is to show you that even when something was whispered behind your back, God heard it before anyone else did and He shut it down. God says He saw the moment your neighbor felt envy build inside their heart. He saw the moment they noticed the attention around you, the blessings forming around you, the spiritual glow that surrounds you without you trying. God says they didn't understand why your life attracts favor. Why you survive situations that break others, why you walk with a grace that they cannot touch. Instead of choosing peace, they chose jealousy. Instead of choosing respect, they chose resentment. Instead of choosing silence, they chose to speak something that was never true. But God says no lie can bury the truth of someone He has chosen, no rumor can cancel the destiny He has written. No voice can rise above the voice of heaven. God says He allowed you to find this message because He wants you to know you are safe. You are protected and you are watched by Him, not just by humans. The eyes that matter the most see everything clearly. God says the authorities who heard what was said about you did not receive it the way your neighbor intended. God says their eyes saw details that your neighbor did not expect. Instead of seeing you as the problem, they saw you as someone stable, calm, consistent, and peaceful. They saw your truth, not the lie. They evaluated not only what was said, but who said it. And God says something inside them felt instantly wrong about the complaint. Heaven influenced their thoughts, their instincts, their judgment. Archangel Michael whispered clarity into their minds. What was designed to create problems only created confusion back on the person who spoke it. God says the tables have already turned. Whether you know it yet or not. The attention that was placed upon you shifted completely. What was meant to harm you is now exposing the heart of your neighbor. God says this is not your battle to fight. Your silence will speak louder than anything they tried to do. Your peace is your weapon. Your calmness is your shield. Your innocence is your armor. God says you don't need to confront. You don't need to fear. You don't need to explain because heaven has already testified on your behalf. The truth is already rising. God says, you may have felt uneasy recently without knowing why. You may have felt watched, observed, or like something was shifting in your atmosphere. That wasn't your imagination. That was your spirit sensing the movement of energies around you. But God says at the same time, your spirit was also sensing His protection increasing. He assigned more angels around you. He increased Michael's presence near you. He positioned divine shields around your home, your steps, your phone, your conversations, your rest. God says nothing around you is unprotected. God says something else important. Don't allow fear to enter your heart for even a second. There is nothing coming toward you that will harm you. There is no danger that can penetrate heaven's protection. What was said about you will dissolve like smoke. What was planned against you will scatter like dust. God says your destiny is bigger than their attempt to distract you. You are walking into blessings that they cannot stop. You are rising into spiritual favor they can't touch. You are stepping into breakthroughs that heaven has sealed with your name on them. God says something greater is happening behind the scenes. What looks like a problem is actually a sign of elevation. What looks like people watching you is actually heaven revealing your importance. People who carry a divine assignment often attract attention even from those who don't understand why they feel drawn to observe them. God says you are entering a season where your life is going to be highlighted not in danger but in divine purpose. People are going to see the miracle that God is placing upon your life. They are going to witness blessings, breakthroughs, and sudden changes that will leave them speechless. Even those who doubted you will wonder how everything is turning in your favor so effortlessly. God says He is using this situation to reveal the truth about people around you. The neighbor who spoke about you will reveal more about themselves through this than you know. Their own behaviors will be exposed, their lies will unravel. Their hidden intentions will become visible. God says even the authorities who heard their claim will eventually see the deeper truth and they will not see you as someone to watch. They will see you as someone noble, honest, and protected. Heaven is rewriting the story. God says He is with you every second of this journey. He is walking beside you even when you are unaware of His presence. He is placing strength in your heart, calmness in your spirit, and clarity in your mind. God says you don't need to worry about anything they said. You don't need to fear their words. You don't need to replay what you imagine they said. God says their words have no power. Their accusations have no substance. Their intentions have no future. Heaven does not allow lies to write the destiny of someone chosen. God says you are safe. No matter what, you are safe. You are spiritually protected to a level that your neighbor cannot understand. God says the ones watching you will see nothing but innocence. They will see your goodness, your honesty, your calmness, your pure intentions. You have nothing to fear, nothing to hide, nothing to explain. God says you are in His hands, not theirs. God says He is bringing justice into your life. Anyone who attempts to harm your name will be confronted by heaven itself. Anyone who tries to interfere with your peace will face divine correction. Anyone who tries to speak against you will be silenced by truth. You don't need revenge. You need only trust. God says your silence will reveal their guilt more clearly than anything you could ever say. God says a blessing is forming behind this situation. Something unexpected is coming to you because of what they tried to do. God says He turns every attack into a blessing. Every attempt to hurt you becomes a stepping stone for your elevation. Every word spoken against you becomes the wind that lifts you even higher. God says He is not done. He is preparing a divine visitation for your life. Something powerful, something beautiful, something transformational. You will soon feel an overwhelming peace settling over your home, your mind, your heart. That peace is your confirmation that heaven has fully taken control. That peace is your sign that the threat has dissolved. That peace is God saying, "You are mine. Nothing will harm you." God says Archangel Michael is standing guard tonight. He is watching your surroundings. He is protecting your name. He is reversing every negative word spoken about you. His presence is a shield no human can break. You are covered by divine authority. God says rest. Breathe. Let go of fear. Let go of worry. Trust Him fully. You are safe. You are protected. You are chosen. Nothing will go wrong with you. God is with you. And when God is with you, no voice, no rumor, no lie, no person, no neighbor, no authority can stand against you. God says your story is protected. Your life is protected. Your future is protected. And you are never alone. God is speaking to you in this moment with a voice that rises above every fear, every whisper, every shadow that people tried to cast upon your life. God says that what you are reading right now did not come to you by accident. It did not enter your hands without divine purpose, and it did not appear before your eyes unless heaven itself made sure you would not miss it. God says He heard something before you did. He saw something before you did, and He stepped into the situation before anything could form into harm. God says listen closely, because this moment is not ordinary. Archangel Michael says he has been standing beside you day and night, guarding your steps, blocking dangers you never even knew were aimed at you, saving you from traps you didn't see, and warning you of things that could have touched your life if grace did not intervene. God says there is noise swirling around you. Noise from those who do not understand your calling. Noise from individuals who saw your light and felt threatened. Noise that whispered about you. Noise that tried to paint you as something you are not. God says your neighbor spoke something dangerous about you to authorities, but heaven did not allow their words to succeed. God says the moment those words were spoken, the moment that report tried to enter the atmosphere, angels intercepted the intention. Archangel Michael says, you are protected. Nothing they spoke will manifest. Nothing they attempted will touch your destiny. God says everything that was said about you is being overturned. Everything that was planned against your name is being reversed. Everything that was whispered to authorities to watch you is dissolving under divine fire because God says you are chosen. You are covered and you are safe. God says, you may have felt tension in your spirit recently, a heaviness that you could not explain, a sudden wave of concern that came upon you out of nowhere. You felt eyes on you. You felt a pressure around you. You felt that something in the unseen world had shifted. God says yes, that feeling was real, not because danger was reaching you but because heaven was alerting you. God says you are spiritually sensitive and you could feel the vibration of falsehood rising, but you also felt the vibration of divine protection descending. Archangel Michael says he stepped in the moment someone spoke your name in the wrong place and with the wrong intention. Heaven heard it. Heaven saw it and heaven stopped it. God says that nothing about this message is designed to scare you. It is designed to remind you of the level of protection you walk with. God says many people go through attacks quietly because they have no spiritual defense. But you are not like them. You are surrounded by angels. You are held by grace. You are guarded by divine presence. God says the authorities may have been told something about you, but they will find nothing wrong with you because heaven has cleared your name before any investigation even begins. God says the truth surrounds you. The truth protects you. The truth lights your path. God says He will never allow the innocent to fall. He will never allow the pure-hearted to be destroyed. And He will never allow your life to be shaken by the lies of someone jealous, bitter, or fearful of your destiny. God says He knows exactly which neighbor said it. He knows exactly what their intention was, and He knows the spiritual reason behind why it happened. God says sometimes darkness tries to test the chosen ones. Not because the chosen ones have done something wrong, but because their rising threatens the atmosphere around them. God says when you grow, some people shrink emotionally. When you shine, some people panic internally. When you are lifted, some people feel left behind in their own stagnation, and instead of healing, they choose to project their insecurity onto you. God says that is what happened. Their words were born from their own fear. But heaven is turning their fear into your testimony. God says, do not fear what they said. Do not fear who they spoke to. Do not fear the idea of being watched. Nothing can harm you, nothing can accuse you. Nothing can break you. Nothing can shift your destiny. God says you are walking through a season of exposure. But not your exposure, their exposure. God says the truth of their intentions is being revealed to heaven. Not to destroy them, but to shield you. God says the very same authorities who heard the lies will later see your goodness and your purity, and the lie will dissolve like smoke that disappears in daylight. Archangel Michael says he is standing guard, sword drawn not in anger but in holy protection. He says, the moment your neighbor spoke those dangerous words, a spiritual alarm went off. Michael says he immediately positioned himself between you and any harm. He says he blocked the words from being rooted in the minds of those who heard them. He says he softened the hearts of those who were told to watch you, turning their curiosity into neutrality, preventing suspicion from turning into trouble. Michael says that heaven has assigned more angels to you in this season, not because danger is approaching, but because your destiny is expanding. God says expansion always brings attention. Light always attracts eyes. Growth always awakens watchers. But God says that what watches you cannot harm you. God says the enemy tries to attack when you are close to breakthrough. When you are close to elevation, false voices try to rise. But God says, nothing formed against you will stand. Nothing whispered against you will remain. Nothing spoken against you will enter your life, your home, or your future. God says He is turning every false word into a blessing. God says the authorities will not trouble you. They will not disturb you. They will not interrupt your peace. Heaven has already spoken on your behalf. Heaven has already cleared you. Heaven has already placed a wall of fire around you. God says He wants you to breathe, to relax, to trust Him. He wants you to know that you are not alone in this. He wants you to understand that He is protecting you from things you cannot see. Conversations you were not part of, situations you did not cause, and intentions you never invited. God says He has surrounded your home with peace. He has sealed your doorway with protection. He has covered your family with grace, and He is watching over every step you take. God says His presence is stronger than any rumor, any report, any lie, or any observation. God says there is a blessing coming to you even through this situation. What was meant to shake you will actually lift you. What was meant to frighten you will strengthen you. What was meant to intimidate you will inspire you. God says He allowed you to know this information so you would understand how deeply He protects you even when you are unaware of it. God says you are safe. You are covered. You are divinely untouchable by negativity. God says He needs you to trust Him more deeply than ever. Trust Him with your heart. Trust Him with your safety. Trust Him with your destiny. Trust Him with moments that feel confusing. God says He sees what you do not see. And that is why He asks you to lean on Him, not on fear. God says fear tries to enter when situations look uncertain, but faith enters when situations look impossible. God says your faith is the key in this moment because faith opens doors that no lie can close. God says the one who spoke against you will be convicted by their own conscience. They will feel guilt. They will feel heaviness. They will regret their words. God says He is not punishing them. He is teaching them. God says forgiveness will protect your soul. So do not hold resentment. Do not hold anger. Do not hold bitterness. God says you will rise above this and He will bless you so abundantly that even those who tried to dim your reputation will eventually honor your authenticity. Archangel Michael says he is whispering courage into your spirit. He says he is wiping away the fear that tried to enter your heart. He says he is strengthening your aura, brightening your energy and increasing your spiritual shield. Michael says the light around you is so strong right now that negativity cannot enter. He says you are surrounded by divine fire, holy protection and sacred covering. God says this is your moment to stay calm, stay grounded, and stay connected. He says pray because prayer is not a cry for help. It is a declaration of authority. When you pray, heaven moves. When you pray, angels respond. When you pray, darkness retreats. When you pray, protection strengthens. God says your prayers this week will shift things in your favor beyond what you can see. He says the atmosphere is already changing for you. He says what was meant to unsettle you will now bring clarity. God says He is wiping away every worry right now. He is lifting every burden that tried to sit on your shoulders. He is calming every fear that tried to rise within your heart. He is bringing peace to your mind. He is restoring strength to your spirit. God says nothing bad will happen to you. Nothing wrong will come near you. Nothing negative will attach itself to your life. God says you are safe and He means it with all authority. God says the watchers may be watching but they will see nothing but goodness in you. They will observe nothing but peace around you. They will find nothing but purity in your intentions. God says every eye that looks at you will see the innocence you carry. Every heart connected to the situation will soften. Every attempt to create trouble will dissolve into nothing. God says He is protecting you from misunderstanding, confusion, false narratives and wrongful accusations. God says He is sending a wave of favor into your life that will wash away every trace of negativity spoken about you. He is sending clarity to the minds of those who were told lies. He is sending peace into your environment. He is sending new blessings into your hands. God says your next chapter will be brighter than any turbulence you face now. God says Archangel Michael is not leaving you. He is standing stronger than ever. He is watching every step, guarding every direction and protecting every part of your life. Michael says he will not allow anything harmful near you. He says he will not allow any attack to land. He says he will not allow any falsehood to prosper. God says rest now. You are safe. You are guarded. You are protected. You are held. You are watched by heaven, not by harm. God says this message came to calm you, to strengthen you, to reassure you, and to remind you of who you are. A chosen soul covered by divine protection. God says nothing will go wrong with you. Nothing will harm you. Nothing will trouble your peace. Trust God, pray to Him. He is with you always and He will not let anything touch your destiny. God says this message is being placed in your spirit at the perfect moment and nothing that reaches you right now is an accident. God says He has been watching the weight on your heart, the strange energy around you lately. The sudden discomfort that came without a clear reason. And He says what you are sensing is not your imagination. God says someone around you allowed fear, jealousy, and misunderstanding to twist their thoughts. And they spoke words that never belonged to your name. But God says you are not to panic, you are not to fear, and you are not to break down, because His protection surrounds you in a way no human can undo. God says this message is a spiritual alert, not to scare you but to awaken you to how strongly heaven is defending you right now. God says, listen carefully, because Archangel Michael has been positioned beside you to shield you from anything spoken in error against you. God says, the neighbor who carried your name into a place it did not belong did it out of their own confusion and insecurity, not because of truth. God says they misunderstood something about you. Something so small that it never should have become a rumor. But the enemy loves amplifying small misunderstandings into storms. God says what they said was dangerous not because of the content but because of the intention behind it. The energy of suspicion and fear that tried to attach itself to your life. God says, Archangel Michael stepped in, at that exact moment, the moment your name left their lips, and heaven immediately began rearranging the situation so that every authority involved would see your innocence, your purity, your truth, and your divine favor. God says you have been feeling watched spiritually, not literally, because heaven has increased the supervision around you. God says when you walk lately you may feel a presence, a heaviness, or a shift in the atmosphere, but this is because angels have been sent to stand at every doorway of your life. Archangel Michael says, the moment the neighbor spoke, a divine investigation opened, one that is for your protection, not against you. God says human authorities may look, but they will find nothing because there is nothing. God says you are covered and that every pair of human eyes that look your way will be guided to see your goodness. God says you are safe. God says no matter what words were spoken, no matter what assumptions were made, nothing will go wrong with you. God says He is clearing your name before anything even begins. God says He will make the truth louder than the misunderstanding. God says, Archangel Michael has gone ahead of you, speaking into the hearts of those who might hear false words, dissolving confusion before it can turn into any kind of trouble. God says He is softening hearts, opening clarity, and pushing away every shadow that tried to attach itself to your image. God says that the reason you are receiving this message now is because He wants you to stay calm, grounded, and spiritually aware. God says you must not confront anyone. You must not argue. You must not fight, because the battle is already being handled in the spiritual realm. God says this is His fight, not yours. God says He will handle everything that was said behind your back, everything that tried to stain your name, and everything that attempted to create false suspicion around you. God says He is clearing the air so completely that even the ones who listen to the wrong person will begin feeling uneasy, convicted, and guided to see the truth. God says He is not exposing anyone to you right now because He does not want your heart burdened with anger or bitterness. God says He wants you to stay spiritually elevated, not emotionally drained. God says He knows that you love deeply, trust deeply, and live from a pure heart. And He does not want the ignorance of someone else to disrupt your inner peace. God says He is healing the situation silently, and that supernatural favor is surrounding you in ways you do not even see. God says Archangel Michael is especially active around you this week. God says Michael has been standing at the edge of your energy field, shielding you from energies, words, and intentions that were never meant to touch you. God says Michael is watching over your home, your sleep, your movements, and your spirit. God says if you have felt restless at night or suddenly alert or as if someone was observing you, it is not danger activating. God says the authorities you are sensing are more spiritual than physical. God says heaven is watching the situation and heaven is intervening. God says your neighbor acted out of fear and misunderstanding and they will soon feel deep regret for speaking prematurely. God says they will see blessings come to you and realize that the person they doubted was chosen, anointed, and divinely protected. God says the authorities will dismiss anything negative that was mentioned about you because your energy speaks truth louder than any human word. God says He has a message specifically for your heart. You are not in danger. You are not at risk. You are not under threat and you are not being punished. God says He is using this incident to lift you higher, to break every false perception people have had of you and to show the spiritual realm how fiercely He protects those who trust Him. God says He knows your heart has been heavy lately and He knows you have been trying to understand why you feel surrounded by strange emotions. God says that heaviness is not danger. It is the spiritual pressure of heaven, moving things on your behalf. God says Archangel Michael wants you to breathe, relax, and trust. God says the words your neighbor said have already been spiritually cancelled. God says whatever they claimed will not affect your life, your reputation, or your path. God says He has erased the impact before it reached you. God says He has intercepted every misunderstanding and no authority will see you through the lens of that false claim. God says they will see you exactly as you are blessed, chosen, protected, and guided. God says there is a deeper reason this happened. God says you are stepping into a new level of destiny and before elevation comes, unnecessary energies must be cleared out. God says this neighbor was never meant to be close to your destiny. God says their words revealed the spiritual truth of their heart, not to harm you but to release them from your energetic space. God says the moment they spoke wrongly of you, they spiritually removed themselves from your path, creating more space for blessings, breakthroughs, and divine connections. God says you have been chosen, and the chosen ones are always misunderstood by those who cannot see spiritually. God says this misunderstanding is the final tension before a major shift. God says a blessing is being delivered into your life soon and He does not want any negative or jealous energy around you when it happens. God says the neighbor's words simply revealed what he already knew and now He is cleansing your environment of all false intentions. God says you may not realize it but a major transformation is unfolding. God says your name is being lifted, honored, protected and guided. God says where others tried to attach negativity to you, He is attaching grace, favor and truth. God says your name is being written in the spiritual realm as someone who is rising above every lie, every rumor, every misunderstanding, and every shadow of doubt. God says Archangel Michael is breaking chains for you. God says Michael is standing with his sword of light, cutting off spiritual attachments, gossip, negativity, and fear. God says the enemy tried to use someone close to your home because your neighbor's energy was near your boundaries, but Michael has sealed every corner around you. God says you are surrounded by light that cannot be penetrated. God says the spiritual atmosphere around you is changing. It is being purified so completely that nothing negative can stay. God says He wants you to trust Him wholeheartedly. God says do not let fear enter your heart. God says do not let anxiety confuse you. God says do not let this situation distract you from your divine path. God says He is whispering peace over your spirit. God says He is strengthening your faith. God says He is comforting your heart and calming your mind. God says He is walking beside you, clearing away every shadow that tried to attach itself to your life. God says the reason He is giving you such a long detailed message is because He does not want your mind wandering into fear. God says your protection is secure, your innocence is clear, your life is blessed, and your future is shining. God says authority figures will look at you and instinctively trust you, not suspect you. God says He has placed divine truth in your aura and no misunderstanding can override His light. God says something beautiful is coming.